Hi, welcome to Unit 2, Rhythm. In Unit 1, we learned that rhythm was the sounds and silences that form patterns that make up music. So we're going to learn some different symbols, rhythm symbols, and how to perform rhythm. Let's get right to it. So note durations. Note duration is the length of time that a note is played, and it's determined by what type of note it is. So let's start with our first note. Our first note is a quarter note, and this is what our quarter note looks like, okay? The circle part is called the note head, and the line that goes up from it is called the stem. And a quarter note gets one beat of sound. So it's just like a steady beat. That's a quarter note that I'm clapping. So a quarter note is one beat of sound. We also have rests, which are silence. So a quarter rest looks like this. Kind of looks like a Z. I have my elementary students just draw a Z because it's a little easier than trying to draw a quarter rest perfectly. And a quarter rest gets one beat of silence. Quarter note, one beat of sound. Quarter rest, one beat of silence. We also have eighth notes. This is what one eighth note looks like. And it looks similar to our quarter note, except there's this little thing which is called a flag that comes off from it. The eighth note is half of the value of a quarter note. So it's half a beat of sound. Quarter note was one beat of sound. Eighth note is half a beat of sound. And just like our quarter note and quarter rest, there's an eighth rest. This is what our eighth rest looks like. And just like the eighth note, it gets half a beat, but of half a beat of silence. So eighth note, half beat of sound. Eighth rest, half beat of silence. All right, so typically when you see eighth notes, especially in elementary school music, you're going to see two eighth notes beamed together. So half a beat of sound plus another half beat of sound is going to equal one beat of sound. Combine two eighth notes together, you put a beam to connect them, and that's what two eighth notes look like. All right, our next note is going to be a half note. It looks similar to our quarter note, but the note head isn't filled in. Half note is going to get two beats of sound, so it's longer, it's double in length than a quarter note. A half rest looks like this right here, and how I remember it, how I remember a half rest is it looks like a hat, half hat. It kind of looks like a top hat. And a half rest gets two beats of silence. So half note gets two beats of sound. Half rest gets two beats of silence. We also have a whole note. And a whole note kind of just looks like a circle. And it gets four beats of sound. So it's double the length of and duration of a half note. We also have a whole rest. Now you may notice it looks very similar to our half rest, but it's actually just flipped upside down. And how I tell my students to remember whole rest versus our half rest. A whole rest, if this part is the ground, this is the hole in the ground. So a half rest looks like a top hat, and a whole rest looks like a hole in the ground. And our whole rest gets four beats of silence. Whole note, four beats of sound. Whole rest, four beats of silence. We also have 16th notes, and it kind of looks like our eighth note, but there's another flag. There are two flags on our 16th notes, and it's going to be half the duration of an eighth note. So a 16th note has a quarter beat of sound. We also have 16th rests. This is what our 16th rest looks like, just like our 8th rest, but added another little flag. And it gets a quarter beat of silence. So 16th note, quarter beat of sound, 16th rest, quarter beat of silence. Typically in music, you're going to find four 16th notes beamed together. Just like our eighth notes, there's two usually together. 16th notes, usually you're going to find four of them together. So 1/16th note plus another, plus another, plus another, which is a quarter beat of sound plus a quarter beat of sound plus a quarter beat of sound plus a quarter beat of sound equals 1 beat of sound. And you see, it just looks like our eighth notes that were beamed together before, but now there are 4 notes together. Instead of having 1 beam, there are 2 beams, just like our 16th note individual ones have 2 flags. Right. So this is how our notes break down. At the top you have a whole note, which, do you remember how many beats of sound that gets? 4 beats of sound. Our whole note gets 4 beats of sound. There are 2 half notes in our whole note. There are 4 quarter notes in our whole note. There are 8 eighth notes in a whole note. And there are 16 16th notes in a whole note. This is something you also may see in music, which are called dotted notes. And a dot adds half of the note's value. So for example, on the left is a dotted quarter note. So how to figure out how long you're supposed to play a dotted quarter note. How many beats of sound does a quarter note get? 1. The dot adds half of the value, so it's going to add half a beat. So a dotted quarter note is 1.5 beats of sound. Dotted half note, how many beats does our half note get? 2. What is the value of the dot? 1. So our dotted half note is 3 beats of sound. All right, so review our quarter note, 1 beat of sound. Eighth note is half a beat of sound, and 2 eighth notes equal 1 steady beat. 16th note gets a quarter beat of sound. Usually have 4 16th notes together, which equal 1 steady beat. Half note is 2 beats of sound, and a whole note is 4 beats of sound. If you'd like a review, quick little video, pause my video and watch this video that I included for you. Okay, you're going to do your 3-question check-in, and I will meet you back for our next part of Unit 2.